Hi, my name is Delaney Fiocchi, and today I will be talking about police brutality in the United States and its connection to the Black Lives Matter movement. On May 25th, George Floyd was murdered by Minneapolis police. Floyd was a 46-year-old black man. On that day in May, a convenience store employee called 911 and told the police that Mr. Floyd had bought cigarettes with a counterfeit $20 bill. The police showed up and took violating actions that left Floyd unconscious and pinned beneath 3 police officers, showing no signs of life. Officer Chauvin had kept his knee to Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, and this length of time became a symbol and a rallying cry for protesters around the country. This is just one instance of countless instances where a black man has been brutally murdered by police. Police violence is the leading cause of death for young men in the United States. Over their course of life, it is expected about 1 in every 1,000 black men can be killed by police. The risk of being killed by a police peaks between the ages 20 to 35 for men and women in any racial and ethnic group. These statistics are based off of data that PNAS.org has gathered from police-involved deaths. The fact that police in the United States kill far more people than do police in any other advanced industrial democracy should be a wake-up call for our country and that there's something wrong with our policing system. Now I'm going to share some black men who have been in police incidents that resulted in their deaths. On July 17th, 2014, Eric Garner died at the hands of police for illegally selling cigarettes. An officer put Garner in an illegal chokehold, and he soon dies after losing unconsciousness. A video of this instance was released and an outrage was sparked around the country. On August 9th, 2014, Michael Brown Jr., an 18-year-old black man, was shot by a police officer. There was an altercation between Michael and the officer that resulted in the officer shooting Brown 6 times, all in the front of his body. After Brown's death, protesters began chanting the phrase, "Hands up, don't shoot," in the week of protesting that followed his death. On November 22nd, 2014, Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old African-American boy, was killed in Cleveland, Ohio, by police officer Timothy Lohan. Lohan shot Rice almost immediately after getting to the scene because Rice was holding a replica toy gun. On November 25th, 2014, a day after grand jury decided the decision not to indict the police officer who fatally shot Michael Brown, the protests in Cleveland became more prominent. On April 4th, 2015, Walter Scott was fatally shot by a police officer in North Charleston, South Carolina. The officer stopped Scott for a non-functioning brake light. A video surfaced of Brown fleeing as the officer shot him from the behind. The officer was charged with murder. On July 5th, 2016, Alton Sterling was shot dead by police officers in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The officers were attempting to control Sterling's arms, but he was then shot by them while reaching for a loaded handgun in his pants pocket. The convenience store owner where the shooting had occurred reported that Sterling started carrying a gun a few days prior since CD vendors had been robbed recently, and that was Sterling's line of work. The owner even said that Sterling was not the one causing trouble during the situation that led police to being called. On July 6, 2016, Philando Castile, a 32-year-old African-American man, was fatally shot during a traffic stop by a police officer in the Minneapolis-St. Paul metropolitan area. When the officer pulled Castile over, he told the officer he was carrying a licensed firearm in the car. The officer told him not to take it out, and Castile told the officer he wasn't. A few seconds later, the officer fired 7 close-range shots at Castile, hitting him 5 times. Castile's girlfriend, Diamond Reynolds, and her 4-year-old daughter were in the car during this incident. Videos of this shooting quickly gained international interest, and many protests in local and national began. On March 18, 2018, Stephen Clark, a 22-year-old African-American man, was shot and killed in Meadowview, Sacramento, California, in the back of his grandmother's house while he had a phone in his hand. The officers stated that they shot 20 rounds at Clark because they believed he had a gun pointed at them. The pathologist hired by the Clark family stated that Clark was shot 8 times, including 6 times in the back. Police only found a cell phone, and Clark had no gun. The shooting caused large protests in Sacramento. On March 13, 2020, Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old African-American woman, was fatally shot in Louisville, Kentucky apartment. Police officers forced entry into the apartment as part of an investigation into the drug dealing operations. Officers said they announced themselves before entering, but her boyfriend Kenneth Walker did not hear this. Walker thought the officers were intruders and fired a warning shot at them. According to officials, it hit one of the officers in the leg, and the officers fired 32 shots in return. Walker was not hurt, but Taylor died from the 6 bullets that hit her. The most recent death took place on April 11, 2021, and his name was Daunte Wright. A white Minnesota police officer fatally shot Wright, a 20-year-old black man. The most information we have right now is that the officer meant to deploy her taser instead of her gun when she fatally shot Wright in his car. These are stories of people who have lost their lives due to the racist and unjust policing system that we continue to support. How many more lives must be lost before we make a change? The Black Lives Matter movement has had a strong stand against the issue with police brutality. The BLM movement is an international social movement formed in the United States in 2013. It is dedicated to fighting racism and anti-Black violence, especially in the form of police brutality. The name Black Lives Matter signals condemnation of the unjust killings of Black people by police and the demand that society value their lives and the humanity of Black people just as much as it values the lives of the humanity of white people. BLM activists have held large and influential protests in cities across the United States as well as internationally. After the death of Eric Gardner and Michael Brown, large protests of these deaths in the name of the Black Lives Matter captured national and international attention in 2014. The BLM movement expanded in 2014 after these deaths. In 2020, the death of George Floyd triggered massive demonstrations in cities throughout the United States and across the globe. The tragedy swayed the U.S. public opinion in favor of the Black Lives Matter movement, while drawing wide attention to the problem of the deeply rooted racism in American society. There are many issues with the policing system in our country, and the fight isn't simple. I've shared many stories and statistics, and I hope everyone can see the urgency of the issue at hand. The BLM movement has continued to play a prominent role in demonstrations against police brutality and racism. Thank you.